Welcome to Strong Principles. This is Wendy Shafransky.
This is Larry Medina.
I'm Rob Dela Cruz. Today we're going to cover biggest program mistakes. It's top programming mistakes that we see programmers, gyms, and clients make. So the first thing is what we see in programs. It could be anything from the latest fitness craze to whatever franchise model.
AI.
To some boot camp. AI.
Good point.
Yeah. There's not enough focus on movement quality. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest one. You go into, like, if you're going into some program and they throw you right in and you're just going through and there's no focus on movement quality, or it is not an environment that you can get better at your movement quality. It's just like moving through the movements. We got to hurry up or rush.
Time.
That is not a program that's going to be very sustainable or you want to do for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of the biggest mistakes we see is that movement quality.
Yeah, when you're going fast, there's always going to be some element of slop, a little bit of, degradation of the movement patterns. So the better you are when you're not going for time and the stronger you are, the better you're going to be when you happen to test it in a Metcon or something like that.
Yeah, I think I might have sent you this reel. It was like a old man doing a squat. And it was like some guy, and like the old man was like almost like doing a bow for the squat.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, it was his personal trainer, I think. The guy racked it, and the guy goes, "Great job." And I was like,
"Oh yeah,
was he
yeah."
doing a good morning?
No. It was close to it. No, that's how bad the squat was. Yeah, it was ridiculous, and he had way too much weight on.
The fact that you actually post that shows that you really have no clue.
And it was an older guy, and I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, I told you that was like kind of ridiculous and terrible and stuff. Yeah, and so we see that a lot of times with movement quality. You have to have the environment that people can spend time on their movement quality. The biggest thing that what you run into is like you going for time, you're doing some kind of boot camp, whatever. It's like a rush, then nobody can get better. Mm-hmm. So the second one is tied into that. There's no progressive overload a lot of times. So the movement quality is there. Now we can go ahead and progress it. And the progressive overload is like a very classic use. It's a principle in strength training that everybody's got to use. And there's a bunch of ways to it. One of them is adding a little bit of load. The other one is adding a little more volume as far as reps. The other one is changing tempos, pauses. You can do variations or whatever. But not having an environment to where you can add load or you can go ahead and add volume to it. That's the second one. That's a really big one people don't understand. You'll show up to a class or whatever it is, and you go ahead and you're doing basically the same thing again. We're just rushing through it again. Nobody's getting better. So movement quality isn't there, and then you don't have progressive overload.
Right. Same period, 5-pound dumbbells for every movement for months and months and months.
Correct. That does not send any kind of signal for adaptation. Mm-hmm. And then we go into our third one is poor exercise pairing and sequence. And what I mean by that is I never forgot, we did it was a latest franchise model, and they were kind of like, you do this, and then you do this, whatever minutes later, and then we do this. And they had a strength portion on it. And they started out with, you do a whole bunch of tricep exercises, and then you're going to do push-ups. I was like, okay, that's like a bad exercise pairing.
Should be in reverse.
Correct. Yeah. So you go ahead and you fatigue muscle groups that you actually need for a big muscle. Yeah. I mean, CrossFit was notorious, which I'm just calling them out too, they were notorious for fatiguing muscle groups that need to stabilize, like the spine or the shoulder, and then telling you to do something. Bad exercise pairing, you got to be careful about, and you'll recognize that in programs right away. That's another one.
For sure. Yeah. Because if you do the traditional bodybuilding, it's always bench and then tries.
Right. And kind of along this, hopefully this isn't your next point, but along that, that same vein is not only within the particular workout, but in the week. So you don't want to one day, say Wednesday be doing dumbbell snatches, and then Thursday be doing deadlifts, and then Friday be doing cleans, because you're bending every day and pulling off the floor. And that's a disaster. So not only within the workout, but look at like the entire week, month program.
Correct. And that's part of this is like exercise and movement pattern redundancy. Mm-hmm. It's like touching them too often. Not only in a particular workout, but in the week without letting the body basically repair and like recover from what you were doing to it. We see that all the time. Now, I'm not saying, because there are programs that are really good that they're called like pump and primes, that you actually would do a little bit of single joint to prime, and then you go into the big movement. But it's totally different than completely fatiguing it and then asking people to do something that a lot of people can't do well in the first place.
And it falls into that. And this isn't typical. I mean, some gyms do this, but a lot of times it's, people see this on social media or they get a wild hair. Let's do 100 push-ups a day for 30 days.
Yeah.
Let's do 30 squats a day for all that's a burpee, whatever. I mean, that's just not smart.
And I'm seeing this right now with a big influencer. That's what he's saying to do right now. He's like 30 days, 100 push-ups a day, 100 squats a day, 100 this. And it's like, that's not the only thing he's doing, I'm sure, but he's also, I think, juicing. But regardless, right? Like that's... And the message that people are throwing out.
And he's worked himself up to that, probably.
Yes.
But then someone's just going to jump right in because they need a challenge, and they can't even do a proper push-up, and their shoulder's in a bad position for whatever 100 times 30 is.
Right.
Correct. That's a good point. Yeah.
So it's like all the things leading into that to be able to do that was your movement patterns good? Did you progress into being able to do that? And there's a lot of like criteria there is met to get into something like that.
This kind of ties into the last episode, right? Where we're basically like, Yeah,
no, 100%. The other one is always going hard. Everything's got to be really intense. Every time, everything's got to be intense. Sometimes you'll come in on a workout and your body, it's just not feeling it. You had a bad night of sleep. You went ahead and you didn't eat great. And so sometimes you're just going to move through. It doesn't always have to be intense. It doesn't always have to be heavy. It doesn't always have to be going hard.
Yeah, we actually purposefully program certain days with a lower RPE, so rate of perceived exertion. Mm-hmm. And we will brief it at the board, but people want to go hard. And, we'll remind them in the workout, but at the end of the day, they're adults. But, it's just, and it's the people that are here 6 days a week. And the only reason they take a rest day is because we're closed. But you got to really watch that intensity over time.
Yeah, I could see that. I could totally see that. Just, because like your ego gets in the way.
Correct.
Right. But if you think about, you have a stressful job, you didn't sleep well, blah, blah, blah. You're just adding more stress. And people say this is a stress relief for me, but what they don't realize is they're doing the opposite.
Yeah. And it's like they're misinformed on like what the workout's intent is, which that's my next one is like a lot of times with the conditioning, it's like energy system intent. So it just means what's the intent of the workout because the week is laid out. You have proper programming. It's like planned and the week is laid out. So if the workout says to only go at a certain pace, which is really important is understanding how to pace and you go really hard, then you're completely off the intent. So it'd be like, all right, today is back squats. And you're like, all right, I'm going to do a shoulder press instead of back squats. So it was like, well, that's not like the intent. You could do it,
sure,
but that's not what the program is set up for. And if over time, that's eventually going to catch up to you because you're doing shoulders the next day or we're doing another intense workout the next day. So now your body's getting hit a bunch of times with too much intensity.
You want to do a zone 2 every now and then.
Yeah. Or just like they call it like cardio output. And it's like, it's kind of zone 2, zone 3-ish, but you're staying at a certain pace.
And a lot of magic happens actually in there. I was injured when I was competing a long time ago, and I just had to kind of work in zone 1 and 2 for a long time. Well, over time, that zone 1 pace got faster because I was used to that zone, and then it transferred over to when I had to go for time, or go harder. So there is. But people like to push themselves, or they want to win, or whatever the case may be.
A lot of times people will be kind of precise in their strength training on how they do it and it's laid out, but they're not very precise in their conditioning.
Just in my head, right, as we're talking through this, like what comes to mind is if you think of NBA players, NBA players back in the day had like a long career was like 12 to 15 years. And now you have LeBron doing like 20 years and he's a specimen, he's a freak, but also they've implemented rest days.
Oh yeah, the recovery protocols are nuts.
Yeah, they're not only is rest days, but they figured out at per age how much time on the court someone can do before it gets and starts getting into them.
It's the same concept though, right?
Like 100%. Yeah, it's like understanding that. Yeah. So then we'll run into ignoring recovery and lifestyle stressors.
Okay. We kind of touched on that.
Yeah, you did. And like what you were saying before is like bad night of sleep, not eating well, drinking, whatever it is, and then trying to come back hard. So you're just compounding stressors on top of it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're drinking.
A job.
Yeah. If you're drinking, like, sleep in, whatever. Yeah. But if you didn't have a good night of sleep and you still want to move around, fine, come on in. But, go at a 5 and not at a 10.
A lot of people, they don't realize it's always more is better, but they don't realize like a lot of times less is better. So let's say you train 5 days a week and you've seen great results for a long period of time. Now you have kids, your job's keeping you late. There's a lot of stress. 2 days a week, 3 days a week might put you in that same result category, but 5 days a week would back you up and be too much. So that's where people have to really understand that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just funny because like it makes me think of, so like you said, if you're drinking, stay in bed, come out later and try and do something later. But it just reminds me of like when I used to work out, we would do the CrossFit stuff and all that. And a friend of mine who we all know, we'd work out with him. When we would do a workout halfway through, he would be like way ahead of me. Like he would just like crush it at the very beginning and like sandbag in the middle.
Yeah.
I would always think like sandbagging. So it makes me think of like, it just brought me back to that. Like, the people that are doing the 5 instead of a 10, I'm sure that they probably think like people think I'm sandbagging, but really it's just, you're still going through the movements. Right. Your movement quality is still good. And that's really what you should be concentrating on. And while, you may not have put 1,000 output like everybody else, you're still doing something and it's still helping you in the long run and you're not hurting yourself.
Right.
Correct. And so a little bit of that is running into the next one is like chasing fatigue instead of the adaptation of what you're really looking for. So it's like, and it's kind of redundant about like that whole going too hard, but every workout is doing something to the body for a signal. So if you're always chasing fatigue, you're ignoring what this workout is really trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you too, like because of you guys doing this podcast, like it's made me think a lot differently as far as like how I do things when I do things at home. And like it's funny because I don't chase the fatigue now. Like I'll be honest with you, I worked out like 3 times this week. And after those workouts, I'm like I felt good and I felt, a little bit tired, but I didn't feel like, Yeah. Mm-hmm. And a big part of me was kind of like, I was like, it took me a minute to be okay with that.
And how did your body feel?
I feel good.
Good. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that came.
I feel oiled.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it. Like, you like
feel greasy.
Like I feel greasy.
Yeah. Because Larry, a lot of that came from information that you got
100%.
From like there was a period of time that it was like, go hard, no rest days, go. And so then that gets into people's psyche. And then when you don't go hard, you're kind of feeling like, I didn't do much.
I feel like it's our society too. We reward the extreme and we feel like we need to be doing something and crushing ourselves.
The David Goggins.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm not saying you never do that, but that's like a part. That's a small part of it. That's like not the only part that you look for. And now going into the next one is no long-term structure. Mm. So when you go in and you go, whatever it is, boot camp, CrossFit, like whoever, whatever, is there long-term in there, at least several weeks of progressions and workouts that are kind of laid out all to go together? Or is it just like just randomly thrown together?
Yeah, what's the intent other than soreness or fatigue?
Yep. Yes. And then one of the last ones that we'll cover is that there's too much variety. Like there's way too much variation all the time. So every time you're doing it, it's something completely different, which CrossFit kind of did that. P90X, it was muscle confusion. Now, planned variation is good and variation is good, but it's a progressed planned variation. When you come in and you do a movement pattern, you want to do an exercise or a movement pattern enough to get better at it. So you have like enough practice and then you can kind of move on. But if you constantly move it around and you don't see that same exercise or movement pattern for like a month, there's no way to really progress it and get a lot better. There's certain exercises that have really good, it's called carryover to other exercises, but they're very similar to the pattern on it.
Like the bench and the tries.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Bench press. It would be like bench press and push-ups are kind of like, they have some carryover. So back squatting has a lot of carryover to wall balls, air squats, blah, blah. You know, there's carryover. But like wall balls really doesn't have carryover to back squat. You know, it's like.
Right.
Right. That makes sense.
But all these movements are actually a skill. So, you know, you have to address it as such and not just rep it out.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to repeat it and get good at it and not just, you know, there's something random and new every week.
Yeah. And so even like going to like the first one that we did about with people, it gets a fitness acuity of seeing movements and practicing them over and over again, where there's a comfortability that they get when they come in. They're like, oh, I really know this and I like it, or I don't like it, but I know how to do it. And I'm really comfortable with this. And that kind of like plays into the picture long-term.
Yep.
So that's basically like some of the top fitness mistakes that we see, like people make in programming and that people do working out.
Yeah, I can see that because, like, in my opinion, people get in their heads, ego gets in the way, and you see somebody else moving something big, and you want to do that too, and you can't go from 0 to 100, you know, unless if you're my pups. But you know, but aside from that, you just can't, and you shouldn't, right? Maybe if you're really young, you can get away with it for a little bit, but it'll eventually catch up to you.
Yep. Yeah, and programs that have these things in them are always the best programs that come out. Like, yes, there's a little bit of entertainment to it, but if you're always looking for like, oh, I want to have fun every time, a lot of times you're not getting that much accomplished too. You got to be careful about that. Right. Not that we want to be completely bored when we're working out, but there is some like over and over again touching of exercises and learning.
Getting stronger is fun.
Yeah, it is.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree. Yeah. You shouldn't pick up the guitar and think you're going to play Eruption.
Yes. Okay. Hey, so this was Strong Principles.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.